All right, fellas, we can go ahead and get it started. We can go ahead and get it started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 52, talking about how to get over your ex. All right, so for this is a podcast that I've been honestly waiting to make for a little bit now, and I feel like this is the right time to go ahead and make this because this is a podcast that a lot of people need, and if you don't need it right now, and you have a girlfriend, let's just say, for example, right, and one of these days something happens, you're gonna need this video, and I want to make this video for the people that are going to need it eventually, or sadly, are going to need it eventually. So, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Um, I want to start by a few things. I want to thank all the girls that I've talked to and all of my exes that I've had that have helped me learn throughout the years and who've given me the personal experience to go ahead and talk for today. Also, if you are watching, you are a fan. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and get started with that. Um, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get into it, fellas. So this, so this topic right here is something that I know, like I said, can affect a lot of people, and I want to start off with this right here. First thing we're gonna get into. Even though I've never had an ex before, this will be fun. Oh yeah, exactly. It'll be. This is gonna be a good podcast. It's gonna be a good podcast. All right. First thing I want to go ahead and start off with: men and women handle breakups differently in general, right? So we're talking about breakups. We'll talk about getting over your ex and things like that, right? So men and women handle it differently. Through my experience, my personal experience, as well as through my observations, let's just say a man and a woman break up. I would say the woman goes through it hardest first. Within the first like 3 or 4 months, I want to say the woman definitely goes through it a lot harder than the man does. I feel like men, for the most part, it doesn't really kick in until a few months later. And like I said, every situation is obviously different, but this is through my observations. I feel like the effects, at least for me, my personal experience as well, it definitely affected me a lot more. I want to say maybe about 4 or 5 months after the breakup, where everything started to settle in, and yeah, pretty much. And this podcast is also a podcast that I want you guys to get a little bit of a glimpse of something that I don't talk about very very often, even to the people in my actual life. Um, Unless you ask a question about it and you're very very precise with the question that you ask, I usually won't open up. Not many people know this about me, so we're gonna get into it today, baby. We're gonna get into it. All right. So that's how I want to start it off right there. I've been broken up, or I've been single for roughly over a little over a year. So I definitely have plenty of experience. I've definitely have talked to many women as well. Not many women, but I've talked to a decent amount of women, and like I said, have cultivated my experiences from them as well. So yeah, like I said, we're talking about it today. All right. One thing I will say, it's a very humbling experience. Very very humbling experience. Um, it is the most humbling experience that you will have. And if you break up with somebody, obviously, you grew together with that person, and sometimes you guys grow together to the point where breaking apart is obviously going to be very difficult and have a lot of resistance. And like I said, that is just a part of what you signed up for, essentially, right? You signed up for that to possibly happen to you, for you to be that emotionally vulnerable, which I do think that in a relationship, both should be emotionally vulnerable because that's the only way it's realistically going to work. Like I said, if you guys are both vulnerable. So, yeah. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you some tips as well as just some mindsets that kind of go ahead and would help the situation. Also, if there's any specific questions you want to ask me, whether it's directly towards me or directly towards a situation or a potential situation, go ahead and let me know in the comments as well. All right, if there's one piece of advice, if there's one piece of advice that I would give to everyone who's going through a breakup or who's trying to get over an ex, I would say write down, write it all down, write the entire experience in its entirety. Um, from your feelings to what happened to what you wish it could have been, through to everything. Make sure you do not have a single thought in your head that you didn't put down on paper. I feel like this is a very very good tactic or tactic. This is very very good. Yeah, I'll say tactic. I don't even know what else to call it. It's a very good tip that I definitely used when I was single, obviously, or I'm single, right? and it definitely helped in some ways. Like I said, because you're not leaving every stone unturned, right? You're kind of just, like I said, going through the entire thing, and you're feeling the entire emotion. Which brings me to my next point, which is, if there's something you must do within this, I highly stress this. When you break up with somebody, you need to feel that emotion entirely. And not a lot of people go ahead and do that. You see a lot of people, they break up with their ex, and they try to distract themselves, whether it's with vices like smoking, drinking, drugs, whatever it is, maybe even other people, hookups, whatever it is, right? That is something that I highly do not recommend, because you are, like I said, suppressing the emotion and trying to distract yourself, which is only going to drag on the feeling that you will have for them for a longer period of time. I would say, through my personal experience, I'm not really a person who does great with emotion in general. Um, I don't know. I don't know. That's pretty much what I will say. Right. I'm not a person who does great with emotion. I'm not a very emotional person in general. Mostly positive emotions. I rarely deal with any negative emotions, thankfully. Um, but yeah, that is something that you have to feel the emotion entirely. You have to feel it entirely. You cannot suppress it. In my life, I definitely seen moments where I tried to suppress the emotion, and like I said, it dragged on way longer than it probably should. And another thing that I will mention as well with it dragging on is, do not put a timeline. Shout out to him. Do not put a timeline on how long it should take for you to get over them. Everybody heals at their own pace, and if it's a little bit longer, then that's just what it must be. And if it's a little shorter, then hey, that's just what it was, right? But what I will say is, obviously, if it's too short, maybe it didn't mean anything to you really, and like I said, people just go at their own pace with trying to get over something as much as a breakup. Um, but yeah, like I said, it probably took me, if I'm gonna be honest with myself, man, if I'm gonna be honest with myself, it took me at least, to the point where, like I said, I could really speak on it, and like joke about it and things like that. I would say it took me like roughly like maybe like 8 months. Um, and it's one of those things that I don't know if it'll be like 100%, or like 1,000% healed, but like I said, you just kind of learn to deal with um having been gone through that experience. It is just like any other emotional experience where you go through it, you learn to manage it, you learn to handle the issue. Um, but yeah, like I said, sometimes are you going to be able to fully get over it to the point where, like, you're going to be able to forget it? And I would say probably not. And like I said, it's just something you're going to have to learn to deal with. And like I said, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Like I said, that's at least me speaking from my personal experience. But yeah, and then I'll go ahead and give you this cliche mindset, which I know, if you're watching this and like I say, you went through a breakup, this is probably the last thing you want to hear. But I'm gonna tell you anyways, because it does still ring true, even though it is the most cliche ass saying in history. So I have to say it. I have to say it on the podcast, right? It is going to be. There's plenty of fish in the sea, fellas. Plenty of fish in the sea, right? Yeah, this is something that is true, right? There's going to be plenty of other options, women, men out there for you guys, and it's just a matter of finding them. Um, Directly after a breakup, I wouldn't recommend trying to find them immediately. I do think you need a time alone so you can fully process the emotion, go through it, and get over it, whatever that may be, right? But I do not think that you should be trying to find another partner. I would say, like I said, everybody heals at their own pace. I would recommend you wait at least 4 months before you start trying to talk to people seriously into a relationship. And if you know me, I do not recommend anyone to go into casual relations with anyone, because I just don't think it's worth it long term. Um, with that being said, like I said, give yourself a 4 month period at the very least. Like I said, process the emotion. Um, get really comfortable with being alone by yourself, and that is something that, even over this it's actually been about 5 months, where like I said, I've really focused on myself. Anybody that knows me personally knows my situation, but Um, these last 5 months, I've learned a lot about myself, got over things, fighted the demons, went over the problems, learned a lot about myself in this period of time. But within this period of time, um, definitely something that I've learned is just be completely content with being alone. Realistically, you don't need anybody. Is it nice to have somebody? Do you want somebody? Probably, but it's not needed. And at the end of the day, if you're a man watching this, if women, I'm gonna give women their separate advice. But if you're a man watching this, your mission and purpose should be the first thing that you um, have in mind. So, if let's just say, for example, that wasn't the case when you were in a relationship, that is something that you're going to have to come to the terms of. And if it's not something that you've been introduced to, as a man, mission always comes first. Mission is always the main priority. What you're here to do, what you are passionate about, and what your purpose and calling is always going to be number one. Because at the end of the day, whether things happen in your life, that is always, for the most part, going to stay true. And you will find different ways of bringing your purpose to life. But at the end of the day, your purpose is your purpose in this life. And it still is going to be number one. So if you break up, or let's just say you just broke up with somebody, um, as a man, I do feel like you need to get back on track, and make sure you're not falling off of your purpose. And if you are, which a lot of men do in relationships and breakups and stuff like that, um, get back on the horse, and like I said, focus on yourself for an extended period of time till you feel comfortable enough um, with yourself to the point where you can bring somebody in your life again. So that's what I will say. Another thing I will say is what you ultimately want to do. You break up with that person. This is my advice to women, right? Obviously, you want to be the best version of yourself. If you, the My advice to women is going to be slightly different than my advice to men. But if I was giving advice to a woman, right, I would say definitely do not go for casual relations to try to get over this person. Even though this person would probably absolutely hate that, and you probably want to do some shit they probably hate. Do not be toxic. Don't get into casual relations. I would say that's where the commonality lies within my advice to men and women. I would say for women, make sure you go ahead and fully process the emotion. Um, Obviously, women, in my opinion, handle it differently. They handle it up front, and obviously, men handling it much later on. But yeah, make sure you fully get over the emotions. Which, like I said, you're still going to be thinking about this person every so often and things like that. Um, but how you go about those thoughts is going to ultimately determine whether you're over the situation or not. But yeah, do not just go have casual relations with anyone. Like so, this goes for both. Do not have casual relations with just anyone because that is not a correct way to use your energy and to try to get back at somebody that doesn't even know that the shit's probably happening. So, definitely wouldn't recommend that. Next thing I will say, this is going to be my advice. This is going to be some advice that I've heard, and I did not get this advice. I did not get this advice when I just wrote was gleaning over the breakup, right? But what I will say is, as when I learned about it, it was one of the most useful pieces of advice that I could have used, and probably needed. But by that time, I was already healed in that regard. But give me one second. All right. So this advice is this right here. This is shout out to Jocko Willink. I got it from him. It was in one of his little 60-second clips, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic information. Walk away and don't look back. If there's any chance of her or him coming back and you guys existing again, the advice that I would give you is to walk away and don't look back because, like I said, if there's a chance that they're going to come back, they'll come back. And if they do not come back, you at the very least did the right thing, which is to walk away and do not look back. Simple as that. That's some great advice that I heard, and definitely some advice that I probably needed because I think it would have went a lot more smoothly if I took that advice. But yeah, walk away and don't look back. If they want you in their life, if you guys are meant to be, then this is going to be This is going to be something that you're just going to need to accept, right? Would be a difference if you broke up with someone or if they broke up with you. Okay, I can see that to an extent, but the feeling of detaching your emotions from somebody that you intimately loved is relatively the same. I would say the process of you getting over that emotion is slightly different because obviously have a slightly different paradigm, but at the same time, it's relatively similar. It's relatively similar. Um, yeah, that's what I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that. All right. So yeah, like I said, the best piece of advice that I've heard from getting over a breakup is walk away and don't look back. Simple as that. Whether this is you got broken up with, or whether this you did the breaking up, I would say that same advice: walk away and do not look back. Um, simple, simple. And then another thing that I'm going to go ahead and say, which, like I said, shout out to Jocko Willink, is remember but don't dwell. So the way he described this was, it's okay to occasionally have a time in your day where you remember the good moments, you remember the bad moments, you remember whatever. Obviously, this is a lot of emotional, provoking thoughts. Um, but just remember and do not dwell on those thoughts. Do not let those thoughts consume you, because easily, very easily, if you're emotionally vulnerable, those thoughts can easily be something that consumes your mind very, very quickly. And as soon as you know it, you've been thinking about this shit for the last hour, 2 hours, the entire day, the entire week, a few weeks. And if you're trying to get over somebody, I don't think that is something that needs to be consuming your mind completely. But yeah, remember but don't dwell. That is a piece of advice. All right. Like I said, if there's any specific situations you want me to go over, or some advice that you want to hear from me, or maybe even about my personal experience, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments as well. All right. Another thing I will say is this right here. This, like I said, another piece of advice. This will be the last piece of advice from Jocko Willink through Champ. But that person isn't who you thought they were. Whether this, I feel like this kind of applies to um, shit, maybe probably both actually still. Um, but ultimately, what it comes down to is this: there's a reason you guys broke up. That person isn't who you pictured that they would be, or how they would act. So, like I said, that is something that you're just going to have to accept. It's going to be very, very hard at first, but it is something that, like I said, must be done, and must be fully accepted and internalized, for you to get over that. So, like I said, that person isn't who you thought they were, and like I said, it's tough. Shit is tough, but accept it, and it is what it is. Move on. All right, the next piece of advice. All right, the next piece of advice. I have my notes right here. Become the person. Okay, so within any breakup, let me go back real quick. Within any breakup, there's obviously going to be the fault that lies on both sides, right? You weren't perfect for each other. What happened when you were with your shit. I love you. I love you, KJ. I love you, KJ. All right, give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Let me go back to what I was saying, right? So you obviously have faults between you and your ex. You guys obviously weren't perfect, and nobody's perfect. Nobody's a perfect person for somebody, right? Right? You just kind of have to deal with their situations and go about it from there. What it comes down to is this: you're going to have the things you're going to need to work on. They're going to need to have the things that they're working on, right, as well. But make sure, if you truly think that there's a moment or a lesson to be learned, you need to go ahead and fully, when you're in that process of getting over them, and that process where you're going by yourself. I do believe that you need to really, really think about it to the point where you can see the problems that you had, whether your ego got in the way, or whether, um, like I said, it was just a temperamental issue or whatever it was. I do believe that you need to get over that, and you need to become better for yourself and for the next person that you have. So those same issues that haunted you in your previous relationship, do not haunt you in your next. So that is another piece of advice that I will say. Become better in the areas in which you lacked in your previous relationship, so your next relationship will be more successful and will not have those same type of problems. All right. Yeah, basically work on your weaknesses, become better for yourself and for your next partner. That's what it was, right? I'll get into KJ's stuff right now. Give me 1 second. Let me scroll up quick. All right. I get some water for this one, fellas. All right, let's get into it. So he said, "What happened when you were with your? I'm gonna say were with your ex, your first ex. Did you break up, or did she break up with you?" Okay. All right, let's get it. I'm gonna go ahead and say my first real relationship. I did have a previous relationship before that, but that was when I was much younger, and I do not believe that it um, was as meaningful as the relationship that GDP. Shout out to GDP. I do not believe that it was as meaningful as the relationship that I was last in. Obviously, you probably don't know the woman that I was with, but if I can give you a little bit of a story, this is a woman that I met in high school. She was 1 year younger than me, and if you know me personally, like I said, you might know, uh, you might know who she is, right? Whatever. Um, but, we got together, and she was fantastic at the time, right? We grew together. Um, if I'm gonna give you a short, what happened, why did it break up? I do believe that it was she probably broke up with me. But I do feel like there were some elements that it was just mutual, and it was because if I can give you the short story, I do believe that we grew into each other, if that makes any sense. So there were some elements where, as growing up, you're just trying to find yourself in this world, especially ages, what was it, like 17 through like 19, right? For me, you're just trying to find yourself and you're trying to create the person that you want to become. And those are very, very impressionable years. And it's very easy to grow into somebody. Instead of you, I would say, I would say it's I would say it's something that I would say I did better at growing by myself and developing my character. I do believe that she grew in more with me, because she was obviously a little younger than I was. So I do believe that eventually, we're just trying to find our individual way in this world, and it can be for the worst. And yeah, that's what I will say. I'm only gonna mention your name if you comment. By the way, but yeah. All right. So yeah, that is the short version. If you want a specific thing, let me know. But that is the story, right? That is what happened, right? We'll go ahead and say that. All right. Going back to what I was saying, right? All right, I already went over that one. This one right here is very, very important. This is some advice that I wish I took and internalized much sooner. But it is something that you're going to need nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and give that advice. All right, all right. Here's the thing, man. I don't like thinking about that shit, honestly. Too intensively, I don't. But I'll do my best. I'll do my best. I'll do it after. All right. So this is some piece of advice that, like I said, I wish that I had and completely internalized much sooner. But this is stop checking up on them and assume that they aren't checking up on you. Like I said, I wish I could have taken this advice a lot sooner. Um, Obviously, you have an attachment with somebody. It is going to be very, very hard to get over that attachment, especially, like I said, if you guys grew together. But yeah, stop checking up on them. Assume that they aren't checking up on you. Um, like I said, you just gotta wish them the best. And like Jocko Willing said, you gotta act like they'll never come back and walk away. And like I said, do not look back. Do not look back. But um, yeah, do not check up on them. There's going to be plenty of temptation to want to see how they're doing. There's going to be plenty of temptation to want to make sure that they are okay themselves because you still care for that person, right? But it's in your best interest to not check up on them. Assume that they're doing fantastic, right? Even though that might kill you inside, right? Just assume they're doing great. A lot of people are still going to care for that person, even though they're not going to, having like a relationship attachment. They're still going to care for that well-being of that person, and I do think that's okay because I feel like that's part about being a good human being is building relations with the people. And if things don't go that way, of course you wish nothing but, or you don't wish any harm on that person. I feel like if you're raised right, that is going to be a paradigm you have. But yeah, don't check up on them. Assume they're doing good. Like I said, it's a painful thing to do. Remove them on social medias. I would recommend that for sure. Block them. Would do whatever you got to do to resist the temptation to check up on them. All right, give me 1 second. All right, yeah, that's what I would say. All right, my next piece of advice is this. This is gonna go. I guess this could be to men and women, but I would say I'm speaking to men in this regard. She breaks up with you, or the guy breaks up with you, right? Use it as fuel. This is going to be in the situation that I just mentioned, right? With them breaking up with you, use it as fuel. This person didn't choose you. This person didn't choose you. There's going to be a sense of wanting to prove them wrong. This is something that I've seen in my own life, and this is something that I wouldn't even say is the most healthiest paradigm to have, but I will say is that it can make a ton of progress for you, as it did for me, as it's done for many other people. Like I said, this person didn't choose you, and one of the paradigms that I have in life is, you know what? I want to prove myself right. This is something I say every morning. The reason why I wake up in this morning is because I want to prove myself right, and by proving myself right, I'm going to prove others wrong just by doing that, right? So she didn't choose you, he didn't choose you. Prove them wrong. Build yourself up to become the best version that you possibly can be. So if they look back, they'll be like, God damn, I missed out. God damn, I wish things could have been different. Maybe they'll even come back to you. But like I said, at the end of the day, don't look back. If things are meant to be, and you guys are meant to go back together, then it might just happen. But at the end of the day, you need to have the paradigm as if it will never come back, and be better for yourself, and try to be better for the next person that you bring into your life. So, yeah, that is definitely some good piece of advice right there. And like I said, use that shit as fuel because there is a lot of energy that comes from those thoughts. And with that being said, if you cultivate that energy in the right endeavor, in the right way, it's going to be in your best interest. It's called Forbidden Pre for a reason, fellas. Use the Forbidden Pre in the gym. Work on your body, build yourself up, and you'll make a ton of progress. As have I. I feel like women want a man with that one skill that all other men they come across or they don't have. So you need to build yourself in all. I'm gonna say all aspects of life. Okay, so that you can achieve anything you want to do in this life. I 1,000% agree with you, KJ. Shout out to KJ. Mod. Also, GDP made him a mod as well. So shout out to y'all. If you're in here right now, we got 5 people watching. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Make sure you go and leave a comment. Just like see who's in here. KJ holding it down as always. GDP in here. But yeah, we're gonna get into the next thing. Like I said, fellas, use that shit as fuel. There is plenty of fuel there. Like I said, there's going to be plenty of energy that comes from that. As emotions provoke an abundance of energy. Use that and cultivate that in the right endeavor, and you're going to see yourself develop drastically in a lot of different areas in life. All right, so with getting over a breakup, getting over your ex, you need to accept the circumstance for what it is in its entirety, right? Um, I don't even know what to add to or really what to say after that, right? Accept it for what it is. It is a tough time. It probably is going to be a less than ideal circumstance. Probably going to be something that you wish should have never happened. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. You accept it in all the circumstances that come with it. But you need to come to terms that it is over and it is time to move on. And when I was when I was getting over this, that's like one of the last things I wanted to hear. But it is one thing that I still needed to hear at the end of the day. It's time to move on, fellas. It's time to move on, right? You know, there's plenty of other ways. There's plenty of other ways to get revenge. Like I said, is seeking revenge the healthiest thing to do? No. But can it definitely bring a lot of progress in life? Yes, it can. So, um, yeah, like I said, use that shit as fuel. Accept that it's over, and get back to building your empire. All right, let me get into the next piece of advice that I'd written down. I kind of already talked about that, right? I kind of talked on as well. All right, we're gonna get into this right here. We're 39 minutes deep. I'll probably go for about an hour, and then we'll go ahead and end it off. So if you guys have any questions, or maybe you want to question my own experience that I've had, make sure you go ahead and talk about that, or maybe you can relate to something that I'm talking about. Make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments. Appreciate you guys for stopping by, though. All right. One thing I will say is if you are watching this and you are in my age range, so let's just say 18 through 30, right? Something like that, right? Which is, I want to say it is definitely a part of the demographic that watches this content. Um, Hopefully the most, but it probably won't be the most. Um, but within this period of time, there's going to be plenty of people that are going to be very, very temporary in your life. I want to say this is more commonly in your 18, probably 25 range. But obviously, if 30 and under, you're still very, very young. And in this period of life, there's going to be plenty of people that come in your life. There's going to be plenty of people that leave your life. Accept the fact that people are going to be temporary, especially in this period of time in your life. Man, that's a good question. Fuck, that's a good question, fellas. Let me. I'll take it right now. I'll take it right now. But yeah, a lot of people are temporary in that period of time in your life, and you need to just, hey, accept it. Is it, like I said, is the shit tough? Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed. All right. Did you ever cry in those early stages when you broke up with your ex? If I'm gonna be honest with you, um, I'm not much of a crier. I'm really not. I'm really, really not. There's very, very few situations that I actually do deem as crying worthy. Um, Not that I can particularly remember me crying in those situations. Like I said, I would be completely transparent with that. I do not have any memorable memories of me crying over that situation. I do not deal with emotions the same as everyone else. That's what I will say. Um, but yeah, because I'm not trying to sound tough. I'm not trying to sound any type of way. That's just not what I do. Uh, Crying is good for the soul. You're actually right. And there's moments and times where I think I've cried for other situations, and I feel like it definitely did something. But I'm not the type to sulk in that feeling. Um, yeah, I rather just think about that shit more than just cry about it. Quite frankly, I feel like to me, crying is like it's not really gonna do anything. It's not gonna fix anything. It's not gonna fix anything practically, right? So it's just not something that I would choose to do, if that makes sense. Um, was good, Andrew. Appreciate you stopping by, my G. Um, but yeah, that's just not how I process emotion. The only situations where I feel like it is reasonable to cry could be that situation. Like I said, that's just not something that I do personally. But I will say, I would say obviously a passing of a family member or a passing of somebody you really really care about. I feel like that is one of the moments that I would definitely express that emotion of crying, and something that I think is necessary. If you don't cry in those situations, you're heartless actually, right? Um, yeah, I just handle situations differently. Was there moments in time that I cried? I could it would if I did if I don't even like I said I don't remember too often, but if I even did, it was less than a handful of times, man. If I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, getting into the next thing. All right. Yeah, I'm kind of reiterating something that I talked about earlier, but I want to make it its own separate point in the video or in the podcast. So, do not suppress your emotions or distract yourself. Like I said, feel the emotion in its entirety before moving on, or it will drag on longer than it needs to do. So you see a lot of people choose a lot of different things in order to try to get over this person, whether they, like I said, have casual relations with plenty of other people. That is some advice that I've heard other people give, and I do not think that is the most healthiest minded advice to possibly do. Get over one person by getting under another. Like I've heard that. I've heard that cliche ass saying, and I do think that is the shittiest advice that you could possibly give when it comes to breaking up with somebody or getting over your ex. I don't think that I don't think that's practical advice. Like I said, I think that's just more of a hey, that's slapping a band-aid on a cut, man. That's slapping a band-aid on a cut. That shit's not gonna that ain't gonna do nothing for you. Um, but yeah, do not suppress your emotions. Many the ways that people suppress their emotions, like I said, having casual relations. They try to run away to vices. You see a lot of people try to drink away their problems. Not gonna happen. You see a lot of people play video games to get rid of their problems. Not gonna happen. You see people smoke weed to try to get rid of their problems, to try to suppress their emotions. It's not going to happen. And I do believe that, like I said, you will drag it on way longer than it needs to be dragged on, sadly. And if you're a person that's trying to get over that and trying to get a hold of your life, this is something that you're going to need to take a break from. Um, like I said, a lot of people turn to things to try to just get away from life in general. Which that's why vices are there anyways, to try to get away from your life. A lot of people use it to try to get away from their life, whether it's conscious or unconsciously. Um, that is one of those situations that you need to face head on, feel that emotion, and get over it. Uh, yes, yes, and no. Like I said, I didn't cry directly right after. No, definitely not. Like I said, I do, and like I mentioned earlier, I do think that men and women definitely process emotion and process breakups differently. All right, next thing I want to get into. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, this right here is going to be different for everybody. All right. What I will say is this: remove all things that you deem to be necessary to get over that person. Let's just say you have plenty of pictures of this person, videos, whatever. If you believe in your soul that you will get over that person a lot better, even if it's initially more painful, you need to go ahead and get rid of those things. Whether it's physical gifts that they've given you, or whether this is I don't know, ideas or music that they've given you, like, or let you, I won't say let you listen to, but like suggested to you. If you feel like getting over that person would be easier if you rid yourself of the things that you associate with that person, then you're going to need to for sure go ahead and do that. Um, it works out differently for everybody, and that is definitely something that's going to be strategically unique to each person. Each person is going to handle it differently. So if, like I said, if you feel even the slightest inclination that you would get over this person a lot easier if you were to choose a certain path, then you need to definitely go down that path for sure. Even like it's like I said, even though initially it might be more uncomfortable and more painful, hey, you just got to endure that. You just got to endure that. All right. I don't know if y'all heard that, but it's crazy. All right. The next thing I'm going to get into is is something that yeah I'll talk about that. It's something that I still do to this day, quite frankly, and something that you get better with time, and yeah, you get better with this with time. So learn to deal with that person popping into your thoughts here and there, and you have to learn of how to go about those thoughts, right? So you might be detached from this person. You might have not even seen this person in a long, long time. But spending that much time with someone is going to consume a lot of your not only time and energy, but it's going to consume a lot of your, like I said, your subconscious mind as well. So, um, yeah, this is something of like I said, if I'm going to be transparent and honest, this is something that I'm still trying to get over myself, and I do believe that this is something that just takes time. This is something that just takes time, and like I mentioned, everybody kind of deals with it a different way. Um, But yeah, occasionally I will have a thought of a person within my past, and this is not just one person. I would say this is a few different people where maybe on the daily or maybe weekly I'll occasionally have a thought about them, and I'll be like, okay, well, blah 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 blah, whatever whatever whatever, and it is how you go about those thoughts. So the way that I have chosen to get rid of those, not get rid of those thoughts, but transmute those thoughts, is to put that energy back into myself. If you've seen any of my TikToks, you know that is one thing that I had mentioned on there. You take the energy that that person gives you, and you transmute it into something that is going to give you more meaning. That is something that's going to be in an endeavor that is going to bring you the life that you want to live. So, like I said, you're gonna have an abundance of energy. Um, Women and men can give you a ton of energy in this life. Even just thoughts about them can give you a lot of energy. Now, what you choose to do with that energy is up to you. A lot of people sulk in that energy. A lot of people get stuck in those thoughts. Um, but like the piece of advice that I had given earlier, which was where was it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Remember, but don't dwell. Dwelling is something that you can easily get caught into. It is like a trap, but you definitely don't need to stay in that. Like I said, transmute that thought into a different endeavor and move on with your day. Because, like I said, you do not want to be thinking about that for the entire day. You do not want that to consume your mind too long, longer than it needs to. All right. All right. Getting into the next piece of advice. Like I said, we got 7 people in here. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Hey, hey, you know what? He's actually like, that's probably right. That's probably right, right? There's a few different things that I would say are ultimate tests. Like I would say losing your, this is getting off topic, but losing your parents, that's definitely an ultimate test right there. Um, but yeah, yeah, heartbreak is definitely a test from the universe for damn sure. It'll test your strength. It'll test everything, honestly, quite frankly. But yeah. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Like I said, we got 7 people in here. Make sure you go and leave a comment just like he's in here. Fino, appreciate you for stopping by. Andrew, appreciate you stopping by. KJ, of course, holding it down. GDP, of course. Shout out to mom. Wanna know? All right, all right. Like I said, go about the thoughts in an endeavor that is going to bring you more in this life. Um, right. This is going to be something that I should have mentioned earlier, but I'll get into it right now. Acknowledge that at the time of your breakup, and even a little bit after that, acknowledge that the fact that feelings are over logic in the struggle to try to just get over them. Right. This is something that I've tried to do so many damn times to try to get over my ex, and I'm a person where my mind works logically, and like I had mentioned earlier, I do not deal great with emotion. Like I said, of me being completely transparent. That is something that I try to logic myself out of it. Be like, okay, well, obviously she's gone, so like I shouldn't feel this way, or I wrote everything down, and I still was feeling some type of way. And I was like, I tried to logic it out. I'm like, well, this is how I would go about any other problem. This is a problem, right? So why would I not go about it any other different way? And then, like I said, I learned that hey, at this point in time, relationships and feelings and emotions will allow you to do things that your logical mind wouldn't allow you to do. But at the same time, you know, this is the human experience. So this is something that everybody's going to go through, and you just gotta roll with it, man. You just gotta roll with it. You gotta accept it, and you just gotta figure the shit out, man. Let time and let time pass, man. Pretty much. But yeah, logic is definitely going to be over feelings, or feelings are definitely going to be over logic in this regard because, like I said, this is an emotional experience, and no matter how much you try to logic yourself out of the emotion, if the emotion's not done and fully processed, then it's not done and fully processed, and it pretty much is just as simple as that. So, um, do not try to like do not try to outsmart your emotions because the shit's not gonna work. The shit's not gonna work. That is some advice that I wish I would have gotten sooner because that is something that I personally had to learn myself. I'm like, yeah, you know what, man? I That's just how my mind works. I work. strictly on a logic-based reality, and when something kind of kind of goes against the grain that I'm not used to, I'm just like, man, this shit is fucked up. Like this shit's not. Hey, something's wrong here. Something's wrong here. But like I said, this is just the human experience, and this is just another part of it. So, yeah, acknowledge that feelings are going to be over logic for a temporary amount of time, and when you can look back and recognize that, um, that even though that is something that, like I said, is a part of the human experience, it's not something that probably should have happened. Hey, that just is what it is. Gotta be the 10 minutes. Oh no. Hold on, give me a second. KJ, finish your thought. Finish your thought, man. What was the worst ex you've ever had? Tin Man equals no heart. I know exactly. He's not human. Yeah, of course. We're gonna go ahead and end it off here in about 5 minutes. Go ahead and leave me comments just so I can see what you guys want me to react to or go over before I go. What was the worst ex you've ever had? Any girl? You didn't finish that thought. You didn't finish that thought. I don't know how to answer that shit. I'm not gonna answer that. I will answer it if you can clearly write it and have a coherent thought. I will go ahead and go over that. But yeah, because here's the thing. Hey, hey, like I say, it's got to be clear. It's got to be clear for me. It's got to be clear. Okay. But yeah, if you have any comments or if you have anything that you want me to go over before I go ahead and end it off. This was probably the easiest hour that I've ever had talking on this podcast by myself, for sure. I also had a lot of shit to talk about, so I will be making another video to this. The title's probably going to be slightly different, but it's going to be similar. It's going to be a similar type of vibe, type of video. Rule number 3. Hey, I already fucking failed that number 3. I'll tell you that for damn sure. Hey, Drake is not okay. Another thing I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna add this to the list. Right. Music is fantastic. Some people hear music, other people feel music. Right. The music that I listen to, I feel that shit. Right. And I do believe that if you're not listening to music that you feel or can relate to, then I don't know what the hell you're doing. Quite frankly. He said rule number 3: no Drake after breakup, or it'll prolong it. He's right. That man is 1,000% right. Sadly, he's right. Stay away from Marvin's room, fellas. Shout out to shout out to Drake. Stay your ass away from Marvin's room. Yeah, and Certified Lover Boy. Stay your ass away from that as well, cause that shit'll make you feel some type of way about an ex you never even had, fellas. Don't. I wouldn't recommend it. Did I do it myself? Yes, I did. Yeah, that's my advice. Also, do not listen to what the hell? What the hell? Honestly, never mind. By Drake, his album. Do not listen to that shit either because no, don't listen to that. You don't need to put that in your mind. 8 people in here. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Today's topic was how to get over your ex. So I'm about to end it off here soon. So if you do want to go ahead and rewatch it, feel free to rewatch it. If you have anything you want me to talk about regarding the topic of how to get over your ex, make sure you go and leave in the comments as well. I'm reading KJ stuff real quick. What was the worst ex that you ever had, and was she abusive towards you? That's what I meant to say. No woman's gonna be abusive towards me. I would say one thing that I sadly had to deal with was masculine women, which is not a fantastic thing to deal with, not a desirable thing to deal with in any stretch of the mean, right? But what I will say is, hey, this is my advice to men: find a feminine woman. Simple as that, right? That your life's going to be a lot smoother if you find a feminine woman. The last thing you want is a masculine woman, because here's the thing: I'm already masculine myself. I do not want to compete. I do not want to fight sword and sword. I would rather somebody hold a shield than I hold a sword, right? That's kind of the analogy I love to use. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say abusive towards me. A little toxic. I've had little toxic situations and stuff like that. Uh, like I said, that masculinity should only go one way, in my opinion. And yeah, hold up. Fino, the best thing going through a breakup is always take what you learned into the next relationship 1,000%. I agree with that. Fino, you're exactly right, my guy. You know, you just take what you learn, man, and get over fight your demons, learn the new things about yourself, and take it into your next relationship a better man, for sure. Nah, I'm not listening to that shit by Tory Lanez. Not a chance. Not a chance. Especially nah, nope. I will keep that in mind for the next time. But like I said, I don't recommend sulking in it. I wouldn't recommend sulking in that. Trillin, I appreciate you for stopping I appreciate you for stopping by, my dog. What's good with you? He said, shout out to my flip brother. Yeah, become a better man after a breakup. 1,000%. Let's get it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, this was definitely an interesting podcast to go ahead and make. I will definitely be making a part 2 to this. So I'll be coming up with new things. Yes, we out here, life of a champ. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on now, got to, man, got to. Appreciate everyone for stopping by. If I can go ahead and give you guys a last piece of game, that you guys can go ahead and take for the rest of your week. Give me 1 second. All right, give you some game for the rest of the week, right? All right, this is gonna be some good advice. I know people watching this are going to need it. Especially coming after a breakup. Don't be a simp. Simple as that, fellas. Do not be a simp. Do not simp for these women. They wouldn't simp for you. If they wouldn't simp for you, do not simp for them. I know somebody's gonna need that. I know somebody's gonna need that, right? Don't be a simp. If you're getting over a breakup, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a less desirable position with being a simp to a woman that probably isn't gonna care about you. So don't be a simp, fellas. That's gonna be my last piece of advice. And if you need tips to not be a simp, go ahead and watch the 51 episodes that I've made. Simping ain't easy. Pimping ain't easy. You probably shouldn't be doing either of them, honestly, if I'm going to be honest with you. But yeah, if you need help with simping, I got 51 episodes of the Life of a Champ podcast ready for you whenever you want. Make sure you just go ahead and subscribe as well. Down below, man. Down below. Come on. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. I'm going to go ahead and end it off here. This was Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 52, How to Get Over Your Ex. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. And until next time, I will be having another podcast next Tuesday. So make sure you go ahead and stay tuned here for that. I will be having my grandma on next Thursday, which is a must-see podcast. So if you're still watching, you need to tune into that podcast. We'll be spitting a ton of game, going over topics such as VR. We're going to talk about modern-day dating. We're going to talk about modern women. It will definitely be a great podcast, and I would recommend everyone watching this right now to definitely tune into that podcast next Thursday. Like I said, other than that, fellas, I hope you guys have a good rest of your nights. And like I said, stay tuned for the next podcast. Also, before I go, make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram, Life of a Champ podcast on both, and watch the clips that I posted this last week. So other than that, like I said, hope you guys have a good rest of your night.